Hi everyone, this is Sunanda Manke here at Concept Tech 2018 and this is a walkthrough video on microcontroller 8051. The single video covers everything you need to know about 8051. We'll start with the features of 8051. It's a 8-bit processor, which means it can process 8-bit long data. It has 4K ROM and 128 byte of RAM inside it. We call it on-chip ROM and RAM. If we need more memory space, then we can connect external memory to the microcontroller. It contains two 16-bit timers. Timers are used as counters for delay calculations, for trigger pulse generations, etc. Here both the timers operate independently. It has 4 IO ports, each 8-bit long. But when we use external memory, then out of these 4 ports, 2 ports, namely P0 and P2, are consumed for address and data bus. Port P3 is used with external signals or for external signals whenever we are using interrupts with 8051. Then if we want to connect any serial device to 8051, a serial port is provided. 8051 supports 6 interrupts, 2 external, 3 internal, and 1 reset also is included in the interrupt sources, as it resets the 8051 and it takes it to initial condition. So it basically interrupts the normal processing of 8051. Lastly, 8051 has an on-chip clock oscillator. This oscillator needs an external clock to run, and 8051 works on this clock. Let's see the pin diagram of 8051. It's a 40 pin IC. Similar to all ICs, it has power and ground pins, pin number 20 and pin number 40. Then RST, that is the reset pin, which resets the microcontroller and takes it to its initial condition. Then 2 clock pins, XTL1 and XTL2, pin number 18 and 90, where the crystal is basically connected. It provides clock for the working of 8051. As discussed earlier, it has 4 8-bit ports that occupies 32 pins out of 40 pins. And when we connect external memory to this IC, then these 3 signals, PSEN bar, ALE and EA bar, are used for connection. Coming to the block diagram of 8051. First of all, it has a processor. We call it CPU. This processor is responsible for all operations. It controls all the operations. The processor runs on a clock which is provided by an on-chip oscillator, and a crystal is connected externally to this oscillator, which then gives clock to the processor. There is an internal connection to all the blocks of 8051 through the bus as displayed in the diagram. It has 4 IO ports, P0, P1, P2 and P3, where input-output devices can be connected. Then it has 2 16-bit timers, timer 0 and timer 1. When timers are used as timers, like as they are used for providing delays or for calculations, they use internal clock. And when these timers are used as counters, then external clocks are given to it for operation, and these 2 pins for external clock are basically the pins of port P3 that we'll discuss in the coming slide. Then it has on-chip ROM and on-chip RAM. 4K ROM and 128 bytes of RAM is internally available in the 8051 microcontroller. Now these RAM and ROM are not sufficient for some of the applications. Then Bus control provides these two signals, PSEN bar and ALE signal, for external memory connection. Then we have a serial port to connect the serial data, TXD for transmission of serial data, and RXD to receive serial data in the processor. An interrupt control block is used for supporting external interrupts, hardware interrupts coming to the microcontroller. Now this is the block diagram, and we'll discuss all these blocks individually in the coming slides. And we'll start with IO ports. As discussed earlier, 8051 has 4 8-bit IO ports, namely P0, P1, P2 and P3. Port P0 is either used as a general purpose IO port, or it acts as a multiplexed address data bus when we are connecting external memory to the microcontroller. Port P0 is open circuit. It doesn't have pull-up resistors inside the microcontroller, and that is the reason this port is called truly bidirectional port, because when it is configured as input port, it floats, that is, it has high impedance state, and so we need external pull-up resistors with this port because it has open drain connection. Port P1 is a general purpose IO port. P1, P2, P3, all the 3 ports are quasi bidirectional ports because they have fixed pull-up resistors inside the IC. Port P2 is either used as general purpose IO port, or when we connect external memory to the microcontroller, this port is used as higher order address bus A8 to A15 in conjunction with port P0, which is used as lower order address data bus, multiplexed address data bus AD0 to AD7. Port P3 is either used as general purpose IO port, or it is used for the interrupts which are the external signals to this microcontroller. That is, except for port P1, all 3 ports P0, P2, P3, all these ports have dual role to play. Let's see how port 3 works. This table shows the details of the pins of port 3. First 2 pins are used with serial data. They are used to receive and transmit serial data. When we are using serial port, port 3's pins are used. Next 2 pins, that is 3.2 and 3.3, they are used for external interrupts, INT0 bar and INT1 bar. Then next 2 pins are used for clock input of timer 0 and timer 1 when these timers are used as counters. And pin 3.6 and 3.7, they are used as read bar and write bar pins when we are using external RAM. So port 3 has dual role, and as you can see here, it is always used for the external signals. Now we have SFRs, special function registers, for all these ports. That is, when the data is transferred from these ports, it is saved in RAM, internal RAM of microcontroller, and the registers are allotted specific location in the RAM as given in the table, like 80H is allotted for port P0, 90 for P1, A0 for P2 and B0 for P3 port. So these are the basically these are RAM locations where the port data is saved for either transmission or from reception. When we reset the microcontroller, all these port registers contain FFH, that is all ones. So this implies that these ports act as input ports at power on or at reset. That is, all these ports are programmed as input ports when we initialize the microcontroller. So when we want to use it as output ports, we need to program them as output ports. After IO ports, we'll discuss memory here. Basically, memory is divided into two major blocks, program memory and data memory. Program memory, where the code is stored or saved, all the operations are performed on the data. That data is saved in the data memory. Normally program memory is ROM and data memory is RAM. In 8051, it supports 64K of code memory and 64K of data memory. Both are logically separated here, program memory and data memory. And how they are logically separated? The control signals used for both the memories are different. So we call that they are logically separated. When we are using external data memory, then DPTR is a register, again an SFR, special function register, which is used to address that memory. That is, it saves the address of the data memory. When we use external memory, port P0 and P2 are used as address data bus for interfacing external memory, and these are the signals which are used to control the or to interface the external memory to the microcontroller. First of all, we'll discuss the on-chip memory and then we'll go to the connection of the external memory. As discussed earlier, microcontroller has 4K of on-chip ROM, read-only memory, that is from 0000H to 0FFFH, right? And this 4K ROM basically contains the reset location. When we reset the microcontroller, it jumps to 0000H. So we can write some instructions here, what microcontroller is supposed to do when we give reset to it. Then interrupt routines, that is whenever any interrupt comes, the microcontroller jumps to this on-chip ROM, one of the locations of the on-chip ROM, depending on the interrupt which is received. So all interrupt routines are put in these memory locations, and some memory is kept for firmware writing. Then it has 128 byte of RAM plus 128 byte of SFRs. Basically, total 256 byte of on-chip RAM is there in microcontroller, where 128 byte is general purpose RAM to store the data, and remaining 128 byte is fixed for special function registers. 00 to 7FH, that is 128 byte, that is the RAM, and 80 to FFH is allotted for special function registers. So basically this RAM contains register banks, bit and byte addressable memory, and SFRs. Some detail about the RAM. From 00H to 1FH, we have 4 register banks. Each register bank is having 8 registers, R0 to R7, and you can observe here that all register banks, bank 0 to bank 3, that is all the register banks have same name for registers. Then how do we identify which register are we working on? Basically, at a time we can work on just one bank, and that bank is decided by another SFR, that is program status word. In program status word, we have 2 bits. These bits select the register bank to be used. Then we have memory from 20H to 2FH. This is bit or byte addressable memory. That is, we can individually work, set or reset these bits, or we can use them as 8 bits or a byte as well. Then from 30H to 7FH, this is the general purpose memory. Normally it is byte addressable memory. So this is the RAM from 128 byte RAM from 00H to 7FH. Coming to 80H to FFH, that is special function register. Although we have 128 locations here, but in 8051 only few locations are used here. Like from 80H to 87H, we have first location is for port 0, second is for stack pointer, then DPL and DPH. The combination of these two gives us DPTR, data pointer register, and lastly PCON is the controlling the power control, basically power mode of 8051. So these are the 5 locations used for different purposes. Then we have from 88H to 8FH. We use 6 locations, and all these locations are used for timer operation. Then port P1 at 90H. Then these two 98 and 99 for serial port control. Then port P2. Then this is interrupt enable register used for enabling or disabling interrupt. Port P3. Then interrupt priority register. It sets the priority of the interrupts. And then we have PSW, program status word, which is used to set the flags, select the register bank. Then we have accumulator, which is a part of arithmetic logic unit, right? All the arithmetic logical operations, one of the operands is placed in accumulator and results also is saved in accumulator. And lastly, we have register B. In 8051, register B is specifically used for divide and multiply operations. So these are the SFRs which are used in 8051 microcontroller. Out of these SFRs, we'll discuss program status word in detail here, and you can see here it's a 8-bit wide register, but only 6 bits are used here. These 2 unused bits are user defined flags. 4 of the flags which are used here, they are called conditional flags, meaning that they indicate some condition that results after an instruction is executed. Like they are carry, auxiliary carry, parity and overflow flag. Carry flag is set whenever there is a carry out from D7 bit. Auxiliary carry when there is carry from D3 to D4. Parity when we have number of ones in the accumulator. If they are odd, the flag is set. If they are even, the flag resets. Then we have overflow flag. This flag sets whenever the result of a signed operation is too large, causing the higher order bit to overflow into the signed bit. In general, the carry flag is used to detect errors in unsigned operations, whereas overflow flag is used to detect errors in signed operations. So these are the flags which are there in PSW, right? Then we have 2 bits RS0 and RS1. Basically, they are used to select the register bank. When 00, bank 0 is selected and so on, right? So RS0 and RS1 selects the register banks, and remaining 4 bits are for flags, and 2 unused bits can be used for user defined flags. Coming to external memory, as we know, whenever we are connecting external memory, we need to use port P0 and P2 for address data bus. Then these are the control signals used with external memory. Control signal ALE is used to demultiplex address data bus of port P0. EA bar is used whenever we are accessing the code from the external memory. So a low, this is an input pin. We set it to low whenever we are using external ROM. PSEN bar is used with EA bar. Basically, it is used for reading operation from external ROM. And read bar, write bar, they are used for reading and writing operation with RAM, that is with data memory. we elaborate little further here. This figure shows the total address range from 000 to FFFF for code memory or for program memory, and you can see here that EA bar is low, then we are using external ROM, and EA bar high, we are using internal ROM from 0000 to 0FFFH, right? And PSEN bar of course is used in conjunction with EA bar. Whenever EA bar is low, we use PSEN bar for reading operation. This is the external RAM, right? Data memory. So we are using read bar and write bar here. Elaborating further on EA bar, you can see here when we are using off-chip ROM, then EA bar is low. When EA bar is high, 0000 to 0FFF, that is on chip. Rest is either off chip or we are not using. So basically EA bar indicates that the address range from 0000 to 0FFH is internal or external. This is a diagram showing external memory interfacing. You can see here we have a 64K EEPROM here which is to be connected. Port P0 gives AD0 to AD7 lower order address data bus, which is demultiplexed using ALE. So ALE here is separating A0 to A7 from D0 to D7. EA bar is low, indicating we are using external ROM. Port P2 is used for higher order address bus. Right? So this was, I hope now the memory part is clear to you. Now we'll move towards the timer operation. As we know, it has two 16-bit timers, timer 0 and timer 1. Each timer has two 8-bit counting registers. Right? So we need to load the registers for counting. So each timer has two 8-bit registers, TH, that is higher byte, and TL, lower byte. That is, we have TL0, TH0, TL1 and TH1. Both these timers can be configured either as timer or as event counter. Right? When it is used as timer, it counts the machine cycles, that is, it counts the internal clock. And when it is programmed as event counter, it responds to external inputs T0 and T1 as discussed in the block diagram. So it basically takes external clock for the counting when it is used as event counter. Right? Now the SFR, special function registers, which are used with timer, as discussed, TH0 and TL0 for timer 0, TH1 and TL1 for timer 1. Basically they are saying higher and lower order byte for specific timer. Then we have two SFRs, TCON and TMOD. TCON is timer control. It controls the switching on and off of the timer. It checks for the overflow of the timer. It decides whether the interrupt will be level triggered or edge triggered. Plus, it is used to enable the interrupts. TMOD is used for selection of the mode of the timer. That is, timer can be operated in different modes. The modes are selected, this TMOD. Plus, it selects whether the timer will be used as timer or a counter. Plus, it decides that switching on and off will be done by software only or both software and hardware. That is, triggering also is decided with the help of this TMOD register. Different modes of timer, it operates in 4 modes. Mode 0 is 13-bit counter register. Mode 1 is 16-bit counting register. Mode 2 is 8-bit counting register with automatic reload. And mode 3 is 8-bit counting register without automatic reload. So these are the 4 modes in which these timers can work. Plus, timer 1 is also used as baud rate generator for serial communication. Now coming to serial communication, let's discuss the serial port of the microcontroller. The serial communication takes place with two pins, TXD and RXD pins. These pins are on the port 3. These two pins are used to transmit and receive serial data. TXD is used to transmit the data, RXD is used to receive data serially. Then the SFRs which are used here for serial communication, the one is SBUF. SBUF basically is used to store the byte which is used for transmission, or it stores the received byte. Then we have one more register, that is SCON register. This SCON register is used to program the serial port for like start bit, stop bit, the data bits which will be used for framing, then controlling the baud rate, the modes of operation of serial port. All these things are programmed using the SCON register. As discussed in the previous slide, here timer 1 is used as baud rate generator, and this supports 1200 to 9600 baud rate. The serial communication takes place with this baud rate. And this baud rate can be doubled using SMOD bit of PCON register. We have one more register, PCON, which is used to control the power mode of the microcontroller. In that PCON register, there is a bit called SMOD. If this bit is set, whatever is the baud rate selected by timer 1, it gets doubled. Coming to SCON register, it is used to control the serial transmission. The two MSBs D6 and D7, they are used to select the mode of operation in serial communication. Mode 0 is 00. In this mode, the serial port runs in synchronous mode. The data is transmitted and received through RXD pin, and TXD is used for clock output. In this mode, the baud rate is 1/12 of the clock frequency, or we say crystal frequency. Here timer 1 is not used. In mode 1, it becomes a 10-bit full duplex transceiver. The 10 bits are 1 start bit, 8 data bits and 1 stop bit. The interrupt flag TI and RI, they will be set once transmission or reception is over, and in this mode the baud rate is variable and is determined by the timer 1. Mode 2 is similar to mode 1 except 11 bits are transmitted and received. 11 bits are 1 start bit, 8 data bits, a programmable 9th data bit, and 1 stop bit. Timer 1 is not used, so baud rate is determined by SMOD bit as discussed in the last slide. The baud rate will either be crystal frequency divided by 64 and divided by 32. Mod 3 is similar to Mod 2 except now the baud rate becomes programmable and we use timer 1 for baud rate programming. The D5 and D4 bits, SM2 and REN. SM2 is used for multiple multi-controller communication, and REN is reception enabling bit. If this bit is high, only then the data is received. DB8 and RB8, these two bits are basically used to transmit and receive the 9th data bit, right? TI-RI, these are the software interrupts which are used for serial communication. After serial communication, we have interrupts. Now this slide shows interrupt table which mentions the details of all interrupts. Starting with the first interrupt, that is reset. Reset is a hardware interrupt. Hardware interrupt means it is generated on the pin of the microcontroller by some external hardware. Now when reset comes, the microcontroller goes to 000H location. It is available on pin number 9. Then we have INT0. It is also an hardware interrupt with vector location 0003H, and it comes on pin number 12, which is actually P3.2. Then we have timer 0 interrupt. It's a software interrupt with vector location 000BH, and this interrupt is raised whenever timer 0 overflows, and it is indicated by the 5th bit of the TCON register. INT1 is a hardware interrupt again similar to INT0. It is available on pin number 13, which again belongs to port 3. Next is timer 1 interrupt, which is similar to timer 0. That is, it is a software interrupt, and this interrupt is generated whenever timer 1 reaches its maximum value, and it is stored in the 7th bit of TCON register. The controller jumps to 001B location whenever it receives this interrupt. The last interrupt is for serial communication. Its vector location is 0023H, and this interrupt is generated when either RI or TI is set. So it's a software interrupt, and RI TI bits set when transmission or reception of a byte is complete, and it is available as first 2 bits of SCON register as discussed in the previous slide. Now the SFRs related to interrupts is, first is TCON, timer control register. This register stores the request of INT0 and INT1, plus this register also generates timer flow interrupts, that is software interrupts. TF0 and PF1 are stored in TCON register. So 2 hardware interrupts and 1 software interrupt is supported in TCON register. The SCON register, serial control register, it is used for RI and TI software interrupts. These 2 interrupts are stored in the first 2 bits of SCON register. Then there is enable interrupt register. This interrupt is basically used to disable or enable all the interrupts. Then one more register is IP, that is interrupt priority register. This is used to program the high or low priority of interrupts. The 2 hardware interrupts which are available in microcontroller 8051, they are INT0 bar and INT1 bar. Let's see through diagram how these interrupts are served. You can see here there is an IT bit, IT0 and IT1. Whenever this IT bit is low, the interrupt is level triggered and the controller directly jumps to the subroutine as soon the level of the interrupt is detected by the microcontroller. But when this IT bit is high, it is edge triggered, and this edge triggering sets IE bit of TCON register, and then it jumps to corresponding ISR. In level triggered mode, these 2 pins are normally high, and whenever there is a low level received or low level signal is applied, it triggers the interrupt, and microcontroller simply stops whatever it is doing and jumps to the interrupt vector location as given in the diagram, 0003 for INT0 and 0013 for INT1. In edge triggered interrupt, the external source must be held high for at least 1 machine cycle and then held low for at least 1 machine cycle so that it can be detected by the microcontroller. The falling edge of these interrupts, it is latched and held by the TCON 0.1 and TCON 0.3 bits of TCON register as you can see in the diagram. And basically these bits function as interrupt in service flags. It indicates that the interrupt is being serviced now and no new interrupt will be responded to until this service is finished. So whenever ISR is finished, these bits are cleared by the controller, indicating that interrupt is finished and 8051 is ready to respond to another interrupt on these pins. The interrupt enable register, it's a SFR, special function register, with RAM location A8H. Upon the reset, all interrupts are disabled, meaning that none will be responded by the microcontroller even if they are activated. So interrupts must be enabled by software in order for the microcontroller to respond to them, and there is this register called IE, interrupt enable register, and this register is responsible for enabling and disabling of the interrupts. This is a bit addressable register, which means individual bit can be set and reset. This figure shows the IE register. The first bit, if this bit is low, EA bit, then no interrupt is acknowledgement. No interrupt is acknowledged. That is, all interrupts are disabled. If this bit is 1, then each interrupt source will be individually enabled or disabled. That is, we have to keep EA high to enable or disable individual interrupts. Pin D6 is not used here. EA was D7. Then D5 is used to enable or disable timer 2. Similarly, D4 for serial port, D3 for timer 1, D2 for INT1, D1 for timer 0, and D0 for INT0 interrupt. Thus, we can say that EA is 0, it disables all the interrupts, and when EA is 1, we can control enabling or disabling of individual interrupts. One more register, interrupt priority register, again an SFR related to interrupts. It is, the RAM location is B8H for this register, and this register is used to specify relative priority of each interrupt. Now figure here shows the list of interrupts and IP contents are as shown here. Now interrupt is either having a low priority, that is the corresponding bit is 0, or it is having high priority, then the corresponding bit in the IP register is 1. If we have high priority for more than one interrupts, then the figure here decides on the priority of the interrupt which will be served first. Let's summarize the microcontroller. It's a 8-bit processor, that is, it does all the operations on 8-bit data. It can address 128K of memory, that is 64K of code memory and 64K of data memory. On-chip memory available is 4K of ROM and 256 byte of RAM. This 256 byte RAM actually includes 128 bytes of SFR and 128 bytes of general purpose RAM. It has 4 IO ports, P0, P1, P2, P3, out of which P0 and P2 are used when we are interfacing external memory to it, and P3 has some external signals coming on it as discussed. P1 can be used as general purpose IO register. There are 6 interrupts here, that includes reset as well. It has 2 16-bit timers. They can be separately operated on different modes, and it has one serial port which supports transmission and reception of serial data. The RAM which is there in 8051 is bit addressable as well as byte addressable. I hope you have understood all the concepts related to 8051 hardware. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe Concept Tech 2018 for more such videos. Thank you.